Welcome back to Eritrea Next. Let's start with clarity. Wars do not begin with tanks. They actually begin with paperwork. And this is not a prediction about war or a reaction to those who are making such predictions. It's actually a structural briefing because there is always a structure to it. On February 7, Ethiopia's Ministry of Foreign Affairs issued a diplomatic letter regarding Eritrea. And most of the news coverage about it was pretty routine. They regarded it as a routine rhetoric because what else is new? Because Ethiopia has been making such claims for a while now. But the fact of the matter is that it is not routine. When states reposition their strategy, the first signals are rarely military. They are actually diplomatic. There is a legal framework to it, and they shift and document narrative. At the same time, currently, today is February 20th, several news outlets are framing this as, the development is now at a risk of war, the risk is elevated. Now, our task is not to amplify these headlines. Our task is, once again, to model that structure. So, speaking of that, today we'll focus on 4 items because they actually are part of the structure, and we'll look at them sequentially. One is the letter I mentioned, the February 7 letter. The second, the most recent troop movements along the Ethiopia-Eritrea border that some news outlets are reporting on. Third, the deployment of Egyptian troops in Somalia. And fourth, Israel's recognition of Somaliland and the ramifications of what that is creating, the ripple effects of what that is creating recently. Then we will assess Eritrea's response so far. Not emotionally, but structurally. Let's begin. Let's take a closer look at the February 7 letter issued by Ethiopia's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Now, in diplomatic disputes between countries, language matters, but structure matters even more. In many such disagreements between two countries, about border issues and things like that, when they issue formal complaints, they include details of coordinates of what happened, when it happened, how it happened, witnesses, all sorts of evidences, and even references to third parties, things like that. So what is interesting about this letter is what it does not say, or what it misses, or what is missing from the letter. So the letter is not, it emphasizes this high level alert, but at the same time it lacks specificity. Now, as I mentioned, there are no details about the incident, nothing about the border coordinates, whether it was the disputes or the invasion that they are mentioning is in the east or in the west, and which part of the northern border. There's no mention of that, but somehow it mentions the port of Assab, interestingly, which is not on the border. But more interestingly, it is the fact that it was issued a few days before the African Union summit in Addis Ababa. So this letter being issued at a key regional event, the key regional moment is actually part of what we should pay attention to. Now, when countries escalate things, when they take it to the next level of what they want to do, they go through this structural checklist, more or less. And when that escalation actually becomes inevitable, that is what they think need to happen next, they document this diplomatic exhaustion of, okay, we did that, we notified this, we published this. And I think it is through that lens that we should look at this letter. That's what this letter looks like, because among what it tries to do, it also puts some form of negotiation is suggested, but the negotiation is somehow about it frames it around the access to the Red Sea. Now, if Eritrean troops are in Ethiopia, what does access to the Red Sea has something to do with it, and why put all of it together, and but more importantly, why now? And somehow it assumes that Eritrea will actually accept this premise and move on to the negotiation table, but that is not realistic. But that's not the very purpose of this letter anyway. The key question is not the fact that it includes negotiation about the sea access in Red Sea and ASAP, or the fact that it's extending flexibility and an olive branch of peace, and let's sit down and talk. That is not what we should pay attention to. It's actually it's the timing of it. Why now? The key question is the timing. And to answer that, we widen the lens. Let's go to that. To understand Ethiopia's letter even better, let's look at what Egypt has been doing, Egypt's troop deployment in Somalia, because it has something to do with it as well. Most recently, Egypt has expanded its military presence in Somalia within two parallel frameworks. One, under the AU, under the African Union mandate, as part of its participation under ASOM, the AUSSOM, ASOM, which stands for the African Union Support and Stabilization Mission in Somalia, and its separate bilateral agreement with Somalia itself. So this dual structure, this 50-50 split, actually gives Egypt two different options. Under the AU mandate, its troops in Somalia are peacekeepers. And then under the bilateral agreement it has separately with Somalia, it gives it this sovereign flexibility between the two countries to do whatever they want in terms of escalation with that. So that creates more options for Egypt, obviously. And for Ethiopia, that creates an alert. It alerts that on its eastern border, there is a different security equation now. And to put it in perspective, for the first time in decades, probably about 50 years, we're talking about going all the way back to the days of Siad Barre, there is a strategic rival now, with a structured military capability on its eastern border. And as we have seen in at the February 11 in Cairo, the military assets and the air assets that Cairo displayed, it is significant. And when those or some of those become available in Mogadishu and in Somalia in the near future, Ethiopia is definitely feeling the pressure already. Now, that doesn't mean the conflict between Egypt and Ethiopia is inevitable or is about to happen, but it definitely changes the calculation, definitely changes the equation. And when countries feel pressure, when the security equation changes, they often seek an alternative way of trying to change that equation. So once again, Ethiopia's most recent moves, including the February 7 letter, should be seen in that context, definitely not in isolation, which is to say, it is in consequence of, and it is sequential to the situation that is happening in Somalia as well. Let's move on. There are definitely other factors that are contributing to the complexities of the situation. And one of them is Israel's recognition of Somaliland back in December 2025. That has definitely added to the volatility, and we have seen a flurry of activities since then. For the most part, the regions, the countries in the region, in the Horn of Africa, all over Africa, including the African Union, has been standing behind a united Somaliland. So has the rest of the world for the most part. Now, Israel's recognition of Somaliland, it doesn't automatically mean that it's a military alignment, or its a close relationship with Ethiopia does not mean that has anything to do with that kind of alignment. But at the end of the day, it shifts the gravity. And for Egypt, let's look at what this means for Egypt. For Egypt, whose economic ties and security doctrine largely depends on what it does on the Suez Canal, the bottom of the Red Sea, where the Bab el Mandeb is, definitely its location matters. So the Red Sea as a whole really matters for Egypt, and that definitely explains its closer and closer relationship with Eritrea, with Somalia over the years. And as we have seen in the most recent AU summit, Egypt has made it very clear that there is a red line, that non-literal military presence, as they call it, which means any country that is not part of the Red Sea is not allowed to have a military presence on the Red Sea, and they are referring to Ethiopia. And in his most recent visit, Turkish President Erdogan also actually has made it very clear as well that he recognizing Somaliland creates more problems for the region. It's dangerous in this volatile region, and he is against that. So now, what Ethiopia is trying to do to create some kind of narrative, some kind of alignment about its access to the Red Sea and its claims of Eritrean territories, it creates more shifts around it. But at the end of the day, this is not only a dispute between the countries of the region, or these maneuvers that we have seen. It involves Israel and Saudi Arabia and the UAE and Turkey and possibly China and the US and the European Union powers in Russia and what have you. So there is no single dispute to understand this, but it also explains the different maneuvers that Ethiopia has been trying to take and make on some of them, maybe make a U-turn, and what it is doing today and what it's likely to do, because it is part of this complexity. But bottom line, everything is leading for Egypt to consolidate its Somali footprint with its military presence, as we have seen before. And Ethiopia, as was what it calls its Red Sea access strategy, it's kind of a trial and error, and it keeps recalibrating. But the bottom line is, and there is a structure to this, and it's to understand the bigger picture, the bigger model of what everyone is trying to do. And in this environment, Eritrea's geography matters even more, probably more than ever. Eritrea has one of the longest coastlines on the Red Sea, and so far its diplomatic moves and what it's doing to solidify its sovereignty and create stronger relations with Sudan and Egypt and Saudi Arabia and Somalia, kind of, it should be seen from that angle. And as we look at the dispute or possible confrontation between Ethiopia and Eritrea, it helps to pay attention to the larger picture, because whether a hard dispute transpires or not, the rivalry, the different moves that we have seen from these different actors, and we are likely to see in the future, will be based on these different alignments. And speaking of these regional powers, it doesn't mean that they are aligning with or they are working for, or every country in the region, every country in the world for that matter, is expected to work for its self-interest. So there are definitely conflicting interests that are aligning, interests that make sense for now. And then down the road, this alliances also shift, and this shift also creates other shifts, and we will likely see that in the future as well. So definitely, the bottom line is the Red Sea dynamics is shifting. A mistake would be to look at a single statement, a single letter, a single issue, and trying to respond to only that. Let's move forward. Let's take a look at Eritrea's response. In fact, lack thereof. There hasn't been much of a response to Ethiopia's February 7 letter. Yes, there was a brief response to it, kind of dismissing it on the basis of timing and motive and rhetoric and so on. But there is no escalation. There is no military reaction from the Eritrean side. As a matter of fact, that's part of its what is called its UMDO, or engagement, or peaceful engagement with the people's border in the region, on the Tigray side, on the Afar side. It's still focusing on building that, I guess, wall of peace, which started about a year ago, and perhaps it was in preparation for what Addis Ababa is likely to do. And anyway, at this time, when Addis Ababa is building a kind of this paper trail of making a case for war, Asmara has been building this language of peace for the peoples of the border. And internally, most of the news and most of the activities that are coming are something to do with trade, something to do with celebrating the anniversary of the liberation of Massawa 36 years ago, and so on. And on the trade side, which is good news, it's implementation of the ICQDA world software. I think I'm pronouncing that right, ICQDA, which is the customs and modernization platform from the UN, which I think will go a long way in making trade and logistics much better going forward. Yeah, I know this is some technical small step, but for Eritrea, as far as, especially when there is a buildup of war rhetoric and a lot of regional complexities, to be able to focus on something like that and announce the implementation of it, it tells us something. Now, while the region in general will continue to be, playing this diplomatic chess and hopefully avoid actual conflicts and actual war in the future, at least Eritrea appears to be focused on, again, internal national harmony, stability. There's been a lot of emphasis on that, which is actually a continuation of what's been happening for the last couple of decades. It is known, there's been kind of a national identity now, that this strategic patience and keeping quiet and silent is the way to go. Being passive is better than responding to every situation. We will have, of course, it's all about whether that works or not in the long run. Definitely, strategic passivity is the refusal to react prematurely, the refusal to be invited to respond to a conflict or to be part of an ongoing conflict. So by ignoring this February 7 letter and maybe hopefully also ignoring other maneuvers that invite violence, hopefully we will see a better future, or at least the avoidance of conflict in the near future. But the situation definitely is volatile, and given this many number of actors in the region, things are definitely going to change. But as we summarize Eritrea's response, it's restraint, and sometimes restraint can be very stabilizing. when all is said and done, what does this all mean? At the end of the day, what does it all mean? I think it means that the Horn of Africa is entering into a phase of repositioning. And you can call it this layered repositioning because it includes a lot of actors, a lot of factors, a lot of countries. And as they do that, they will have their diplomatic repositioning, legal repositioning, military alignments and shifts, the diplomatic recognition of Somaliland and lack thereof, this different alignment on the Red Sea regarding trade and navies and marines and so on. So as they do that, escalation or conflict is part of the possibilities, but it's not the only one. And in order to understand what is happening, when we seek clarity, it's better to understand the motives, the frameworks, the incentives behind those models, instead of simply amplifying rhetoric, simply amplifying what others are claiming. And at the end of the day, our main goal here at the Eritrea Next is to create some clarity, based on something that requires evidence-based understanding of what the models are, the frameworks are, and the incentives of why everybody is trying to do what they do. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next briefing.